where cinema is not just watched, it's analyzed,
Ooh,
dissected. It's a new one. And understood by Master Bob Lemon.
that was a good intro. Look at that. Not just watched,
That's the one.
analyzed. Yes,
Analyzed. Dissected like a
I love
flower.
that. Did you work all week on that?
I think so. I did like what? I think for 1 week while you're gone for
Yeah,
in the studio. So let's
yeah.
bring
I was
something
out of
new.
studio last week, so you didn't get to see me, but now you're gonna see me. So
Yes, your invisible power last week. So
right, yeah. I was a
it,
disembodied voice.
it inspired me to create something. I think it's work. Dissected and understood. And yes, last episodes we did a milestone on movie 101 review because Mr. Bomb gave us the lowest rating ever. Is it?
Lowest
Probably
rating.
one.
Yeah,
Next
I
time.
know. For Drugstore June. Sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry,
but
Drugstore June. You just weren't that great.
we don't mean it. Mr. Bob don't
Yeah.
mean it. Okay? We're
Oh, there's
just
nothing
doing our best.
personal. No, nothing personal. It's all. I said
Is
it
it?
had all the elements. I said it could be great, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I said.
Yes. But
So
anyway,
this
please do
week,
what's it.
are you ready for this week?
Oh, yes. Let's do a drum roll. Drum roll, please. Oh, my drum roll is
There you
dead.
go. We don't have one, but two movies to talk about this
Oh,
week.
my. Oh, my. You're making milestones
Another
again.
landmark milestone here.
Yes.
And the reason I'm doing that is because they're both documentaries on famous people. And I watched
Famous
them over the
people.
weekend. I was going to just watch one, and then I
But
watched the other one and I'm like, "You know what is interesting about these two documentaries is they are both about famous people from the exact same time period, and yet one is terrible and one is good."
terrible in what? How
And so
they
I thought,
perform it?
what better to do than talk about both of them?
Yes, definitely.
What do you think?
Yes, I
Okay.
will support your partner because you're my partner. Why not?
Well, our first one is a brand new documentary about Paul McCartney called Man on the Run, and it
I
just
thought
came
many of
out.
them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
are you familiar? Are you a Paul McCartney fan at all, Daniel?
Well, I like the Beatles, but not
Are you,
specifically
oh
Paul
well,
as the whole
then
thing.
yeah. So this is about Paul McCartney after the
After.
Beatles breakup. So
Okay.
mostly during the time that he is with Wings, which was his other band that he created after the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was mostly through the 1970s. So this is
Okay.
a film by Morgan Neville. It has archival footage from a lot of different people. George Harrison, Ringo Starr, John Lennon, obviously, as well as Sean Lennon and Stella McCartney, who's his daughter, and Linda McCartney and all the McCartneys, Mick Jagger, Chrissy Hines, Yoko Ono, Denny Lane, and of course the other members of Wings. Uh, so it's actually quite a well made um,
Documentary.
documentary. Very well made. So there you got it right there. The so I don't have a problem with that part of it. It's just it, it's not that interesting. So it was
Why
a very
not?
well made documentary, but they really, I mean, obviously Paul McCartney is a very famous person. He's been in a lot of documentaries about the Beatles and about other things and so forth. And I think they thought they were trying to give um you know an expose on the time after the Beatles and up until basically from 1969 until around 1980, like 4, I think is what it was, 84, 85.
Mm.
And because since 85 he has done solo stuff and not so much the Wings stuff. And Wings has some good songs and everything, but it, I would say, overall it's just kind of boring. I mean, he doesn't so let me give you the rundown. So they're trying to make it sound in the documentary, and this is what really kind of ruined it, if you ask me.
Mm.
Is okay, the Beatles are breaking up. We know that's happening in 1969. If you're a Beatles fan, you know all about this. And Paul McCartney is he turned 27. Basically what he's done his whole adult life is ending, right? He was a member of the Beatles, one of the
Okay.
biggest rock and roll groups in history, and still very popular. And so it's kind of a little bit of a woe is me. Oh, the Beatles are going to end. What am I going to do with my life? And it's like, give me a break. You're Paul
Hmm.
McCartney. You were in the Beatles. You could do nothing for the rest of your life, and it would be absolutely fine.
Yes.
But in the
You have a
documentary, they
legacy.
they kind of play him as kind of like sad and really torn up about all this that's happening, and you just don't buy it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He's a multimillionaire at this point in his life. He's 27 years old, multimillionaire. He can do anything he wants,
Hmm.
but he's sad. Boo hoo. Boo hoo, poor Paul McCartney. It doesn't work they really should have gone into it with a different tact. Because, you know, it, it doesn't float, it doesn't fly. People are not going to really buy into that aspect of things. Maybe he was depressed. I mean, I'm sure he was. If anybody has been in a successful career and it comes to a turning point, I'm sure they are, depressed. But it's hard to be, you know, feel sorry for a guy who's basically got it all, you know? And so, yeah, the Beatles were ending, but you got a lot, you know? And so then they say, well, he wanted to start Wings as if it were a new band. And then they proceed to talk about how the Wings formed with Denny Lane, who was in uh, Moody Blues. He stuck with Wings all the way through. Really, Wings didn't end until Denny Lane decided to leave because they went through a lot of other members of the backing band throughout the course of Wings, but Denny Lane was kind of the only one that stuck around for the whole thing besides Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney. But so they're like, oh yeah, he's like. Then they again another attempt at ridiculousness is that Wings was going to start out like a regular working band. And so then they, showed footage from whenever they were starting out, and they just had an old van, and they went to gigs in Britain, uh, driving around with their own equipment and set it up and everything. No roadies, no help or anything, which is quaint. But again, it's Paul McCartney. It's not like he couldn't afford to hire roadies and he couldn't afford to have all this. He's really just playing. He's play acting, and they're trying to convince everybody who's watching this documentary that it was some kind of real sincere effort to start over. When then they tell stories about how he won't use the public restrooms because he's Paul McCartney. He's like, well, I can't go stand at the urinal with everybody because I'm Paul McCartney. And so it doesn't know what it wants to be, this documentary. It wants to portray Paul McCartney as this kind of, after the Beatles were over, he's kind of an everyman kind of a situation. But then the thing that keeps getting in the way is the fact that he was in the Beatles. And then he has fights with the Beatles about ownership of things and Apple Records, and we've seen documentaries about that. They don't go into it too far, They really try to stick with the Wings aspect of things. But as this documentary goes on, it really kind of just shows how big of a jerk Paul McCartney was to his bandmates. I don't think that was intentional, Daniel, because it was just things like, well, some people left the band because he paid them a stipend. He wouldn't really let them participate in the record royalties, right? So they were just hired guns to be in Paul McCartney's band. Paul McCartney wrote the songs and then they played the songs. And it was quite honest in the documentary that that's what was going on. And these people kind of got tired of hanging out and are like, well, I mean, we're not making any real money because we don't have a stake in the band. And so they left and other people came in. And then they left as well because of similar issues. And so the reality was this was basically Paul McCartney's fun thing to do. I've been a Beatle. I want to do something fun. Let's have some people go on the road and we'll be this band called Wings and we'll do some fun stuff. Unfortunately, I think the documentary was trying to get people to feel one way, but if you were actually paying attention, it made you feel a different way. I don't know that that was totally intentional on the part of the documentarian, but that's what happened when I was watching it. I'm like, well, they did some interesting things. Obviously, there's some good songs. Live and Let Die, it was a great song by Wings for the James Bond movie of the same name. He's got lots of songs from Wings. Band on the Run, a great song from Wings. But really, it's really just an extension of Paul McCartney. It's not really a band like the Beatles was a collaborative band. And in the documentary, it really showed that it wasn't a collaborative kind of thing. Now, get ready here, Daniel. The second documentary that I watched was called, and now all this happens in the 70s for the most part with the Man on the Run. The second documentary I watched was called Show Business is My Life, but I Can't Prove It. And it is a documentary about a comedian, and his name is Gary Mule Deer. And he was actually quite a famous comedian in the 1970s. Now, the funny thing is Gary Mule Deer grew up in a little town called Spearfish, South Dakota, and he wanted to go do other things, and he happened to catch a chance to be in a band in California, and so he went with some people he had met to go be in this band in California. And when he gets there, they want him. He knew this. This is the other thing. He's just kind of a kooky guy. He gets out there. They want him to play the bass guitar. He's never played a bass guitar, but he said, "Sure, I can play the bass guitar. Let's go." So he goes all the way out to California, and then he gets in front of a guy, and this is in the late 60s. Named Van Dyke Parks, which is a very famous artist back in that time period. And Van Dyke was the person who was going to be producing this group and so forth. This is a big deal. And they go, "Gary, are you going to play the bass?" And then Gary says, "Well, I don't really know how to play the bass." And so they kicked him out of the band right then and there. And so then he's in California and he has to scrounge up for a living. And so Gary had been playing in in Deadwood, South Dakota, in brothels and gambling halls. He played the guitar and he would tell some jokes. And so he said, "Well, I guess I could do that out here in California." And so then he started doing that. He becomes roommates with Steve Martin. Who right? Steve Martin, the famous comedian. And and they get Steve Martin gets a job working for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, Gary Mule Deer helps him with writing in the background, and then that kind of helps Gary get on to things. And so, but Gary Mule Deer was quite a he was on everything back in the 70s. If go switch over and look at his IMDb, and you'll probably
Hmm.
recognize him if you're familiar with that, uh,
Okay.
Daniel. And
Yes.
so Gary starts. He actually did get in a band there for a little while called the New Society, but that didn't last very long in the late '60s. So he starts doing comedy, and he was one of the original performers at the Comedy Store, which was a new thing back then at that time period. And he then is befriends David Letterman,
Uh-huh.
Conan O'Brien, um, Jay Leno. He knows all these people, and so then he gets on the Tonight Show. And no, that's Gary Coleman.
Very cool.
It's the movie's called Show Business Is My Life.
Joe
Get that
business.
in.
Okay.
Gary Coleman, that's a whole other movie. I've never seen that one.
It's a comedian too, right?
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Okay.
It's called
Let's do
Show
this
Business
one.
Is My Life. If you want, I
Show
have it.
business is my
I might be
life.
able to bring
Okay.
it up if you want me to.
Okay. Can you bring it up for me?
Sure. Let's see. Do share screen. Let me find it. Here we go. Let's see if it comes up there. Can you see it?
Yes.
So here's Gary Mule Deer. A little picture of him there. Where do you usually go to the photos? Do you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not Gary. That's a different guy. That's not Gary. That's Jimmy Walker. That's Alice Cooper. That's Jay Leno. They all
Jay
know
Leno.
everybody. That's the funny thing is Gary Mule Deer is probably not even there. He is. He's not even pictured. Um, so anyway, he has. So Paul McCartney was boring and kind of a jerk in his
Mm-hmm.
documentary that I just talked about. Gary Mule Deer is incredibly interesting, and I found out so much stuff about him. I remember as a child watching him do comedy. He kind of was a prop comic. He had props and rubber chickens and little kids' toys like bow and arrows and stuff like that he used to do his comedy with. And but then the other thing I found out was he had a really bad drug problem, and
Oh
so
my.
he talks about how he talks about how he there's Steve Martin. Look at that. There's Gary. He's an old man now. He talks about how he would work at like he'd work in Las Vegas. He was the opening act for Roger Miller, who was a popular singer at the time. And he said I'd made $3,500 a week, and then he gambled and used drugs, and he lost $5,000 a week. So he was losing money while he was working, which is great story. He had all kinds of good stories to tell, and had lived quite an interesting existence. Now, unless you're older, uh, you might not even remember him because that's why the name of his movie is Show Business Is My Life, but I can't prove it because people just don't remember. But he used to be on every show. There's a lot of variety shows back then, and late night shows were just hitting their stride. So he was on Letterman, he was on the Tonight Show, and so forth back then. And then he would get on. He was on Hee Haw, which I know you probably don't know Hee Haw, Daniel, but it was a popular country show. When I was a kid, he was on Hee Haw in the '90s, but he has had quite a good career for a person that you might not remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it's way more interesting, especially during this time period in the '70s where he kind of just took off. Him and Steve Martin were part of what would be called absurdist comedy. So they would say these non sequiturs and absurd things, and it would be, I mean, it's funny, and he would do nonsensical, things with props and so forth. And but he was always very, very funny because he was kind of like uh, you could see just by the expression on his face, he kind of had this kind of blank expression that he would do all the time. He was never in on the joke that he was telling, and it was up to you to catch the joke because he was very dry delivery and very deadpan, and that was kind of his style. But this is a fascinating take on this guy because there's his rubber chicken, right, smoking a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had no idea. That's Johnny Mathis. He's still Gary Mulder still works today. That's Johnny Mathis. He's a country singer,
Mm-hmm.
country singer since that time period, and they still tour. They do Las Vegas and other places. That's Jimmy Walker, who he's friends with, who was JJ from Good Times, if you remember that. Obviously, Alice Cooper, who he was friends with back in the day, and Jay Leno and David Letterman, Conan, so forth. So, but the wildly interesting thing is that he lived an incredible life. Like it was just incredibly crazy. He was not a very good businessman, and so all the money he made, he basically spent. When he was younger, he's done better since he got older. But when he was younger, during the height of his career, he snorted a bunch of cocaine. He took a lot of drugs, but he still did his shows, and he spent a lot of money. He gambled. He was has a serious gambling problem. This poor guy. He talks about it. He's all very honest. Whereas if you contrast with the Paul McCartney thing, Paul McCartney's still trying to be the underdog when he's not. He's a winner, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Gary Mulder he's not saying he's the underdog. He's just saying this is the way it was. And
Which
here's
who I
what I
am.
did, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
totally honest. It's totally raw. He admits to, making terrible, terrible life choices and owns up to them. And it's fascinating.
Ah,
Whereas the Man on the Run, not incredibly
they, c-
fascinating.
they cover up.
It's a cover. Essentially, you're right. That is right. It's a cover up. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to make you think that Paul McCartney is an underdog when the reality is from when the time he was like 17 years old, he's been a number one entertainer.
Addict.
You can't go back. Once you
Mm-hmm.
get, I mean, you can fall off the edge of a cliff like Gary did, right? He was hot in the 70s, and then his popularity waned as he got older because times changed, and they just weren't in need of what he was delivering. Um, you know, but he still was a celebrity. Paul McCartney was the biggest celebrity in the world, part of the biggest celebrities in the world at one time, and still is. And you can't say, "Oh, I just was going to be an independent band." It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
fly. It doesn't track. And so, but the funny thing is, these two people were in these two documentaries. Really talk about the time period, the same time period, and what was going on with these different people in the entertainment industry, and how one guy is humble. Gary Mulder is very humble and saying, I had a great time and I did terrible things. And at
Yes.
points, I almost ruined my life and killed myself because he was doing so much cocaine. He just about killed himself. Where Paul McCartney is like, well, the Beatles ended and I was all sad and I wanted to do something else. And we just really, independent band. No, that's not really that's not how it worked, Paul,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. I don't know.
Be,
I don't know where
be
you were living, but
authentic.
that's not what happened.
Be authentic in the world of AI.
That's right. So to me, it
Admit
was just
something.
incredibly fascinating to look at those two, and I watched them both in the same day.
The same
Um,
day. So
yeah.
let's refresh. Refresh
So
fresh.
let's go. I'm still sharing it, aren't I? Yeah. Okay. So I'm
Yes,
gonna
you
go
did.
back to the Man on the Run. 7.6 is what the IMDb has given
IDB.
it,
Mm-hmm.
and Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 100%.
Oh wow.
but
They love
it's
they love
like I
fate.
said, a very well made documentary. But if you pay attention,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not so much. Uh, Gary Muledeer's thing, show business is my life, but I can't prove it. An 8 out of 10, right? And
Mm.
Rotten Tomatoes, they don't even have one review.
They don't like authentic.
But the popcorn
Mm.
meter is 100%. So
Oh,
there you go.
yeah,
So
there you
yeah,
go.
so there you go. But it's I
Mm.
would say for this one, if I was going to be rating it, which I will rate it in front of you right now,
Right
I will
now.
give my rating, and I will only say it is a 6.
Sex.
And then I will
Mm.
give Gary Muledeer's show a
Mm.
rating, and I will say that is a 9. I already did it. 9.
Nine. Wow.
So
This is
yeah,
the
so
highest so
yeah,
far.
exactly.
You're making a milestone again.
Another milestone. And
Yes.
so yeah, so I think, but the interesting thing is just to having to watch those two things on the same day,
Mm-hmm.
the juxtaposition of the two and the everything about it, it's like authenticity with this one, show business in my life, and a total cover up, as
Yes.
you said. I'll take your words, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Cover up on Man on the
Cover.
Run. Yeah,
Definitely.
because you have to think he's again. It can't you can't listen to your ears and just believe what you're hearing. You have to listen with your ears and your eyes, because the album Band on the Run had major stars on the cover. James Coburn and so forth were on the cover of his album. He could do anything he wanted. So it was never a little band that could. It was always Paul McCartney pushing the things forward because he's Paul McCartney. So, um,
Definitely.
yeah. So let me stop
He's a
sharing
legend.
here. Exactly, he is a legend. But
He's a
I think
legend.
this is if you watch these two things back to back, or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
the lesson is, really be scrutinize, pay attention
Yeah.
to what they're telling you, and pay attention to what they're saying, and then also watch what they're showing, and you'll see that you know
Something
sometimes,
missing.
yeah, sometimes they're not telling you what is the truth.
Mm. Wow.
Mm.
Interesting.
What do you
Yeah.
think? You
Interesting.
don't know Gary Muledeer, I'm guessing, Daniel, because
Gary, no.
you didn't, yeah, grow up in the country, but you know Paul McCartney. So
Yes. That's why I think I therefore conclude that there's a lot of reviews about Paul because he's well known. Not
yeah,
everybody. That's why, okay, even what they talk about, the narrative is still accepted to them because it's Paul McCartney as a
right.
legendary.
He's a legend, exactly. But
So, sad to
maybe
say.
he's not the nicest legend. I don't know.
Mhm. Sad to say, but well, people like that.
I'll
They
tell you what.
judge.
Ask Denny Lane. Ask Denny
Mm.
Lane how legendary Paul McCartney is. Maybe he's got a different view of
Mhm.
that.
It's not realistic. For sure, if they make the narrative just like Mr. Gary, they should be more popular, right?
Maybe, I
For sure,
don't
they
know.
will
I think
suffer.
that this is probably as close as we're going to get for Gary.
If Mr. Paul said, "Oh yes, I did also did addiction in the year 1945," which
Well,
is
he did get caught. A big story, and they actually talked about it, was he did get
mm,
caught in Japan with marijuana.
uh-huh.
When he got on a plane, and he actually was going to go to jail, and then they just kicked him out of the country. I don't think he could. I don't know if he still can't, but he could not go to Japan for decades
Oh wow.
because of that. Yeah.
But it's
So
not
again, he's
included
kind
in
of a spoiled.
documentary.
He's kind of a spoiled brat in
Mm.
a way, because he's like, yeah, I think I can get away with taking pot into Japan in my luggage.
Come to Canada and you're free.
There you go.
Anywhere.
There.
Anywhere, Mr. Paul McCartney, because you're a legend. People love you, so use that legendary icon to empower people.
That's probably the only reason they didn't throw him in jail, is because it was 7 years mandatory for possession of marijuana back then.
Oh, yes.
He got out of it. He got sent home.
Because of the popularity.
Yep, because of his popularity. Exactly.
Wow,
So,
it's like
I forgot. We got to give my rating. So the ratings, our popcorn meter, I give Gary Mule Deer at least a 4.5 on our popcorn scale. And Man on the Run, I don't know. If you like Paul McCartney and the Beatles and stuff, maybe a 3.
I thought it's 2. It's a tie last week. But, well, it's a good documentary. Mr. Bob, thank you for sharing to us. And I hope our viewers and listeners, please do watch it and compare them. Which is more authentic, which is more reliable, and which is more empowering to us.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Bob, would you like to plug in something?
Well, if you want to hear some authentic stuff, you can always tune in to the 101s or Static Radio at staticradio.com. Either one, very authentic.
Authentic indeed, people. There's no script. We are just impromptu.
That's right.
We love it. We love doing it. So, Mr. Bob, thank you so much for your time.
Everybody take care. And
Yes.
don't travel with marijuana in your luggage.
Except when you're in Canada. I think in the States too. Yes, a specific state.
I don't think they'll let you bring it into the country though. You can't. You got to get it while you're here. You can't just bring it with you.
Only what? Which state in the U.S. Already?
Most of them these days. Almost most of them. Yeah. Colorado, especially Missouri, where I live, it's legal now. Illinois, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them.
The only thing I hate with marijuana when they're doing it is like, oh my goodness, the smell is giving me a headache.
I have the same feeling.
Give me a headache. I said one time when first time they legalized marijuana in Canada, I confronted these two people. Said, can you not please do it in a public? Because we consider it. And the answer is, hey, it's already legalized. What can we do?
That's right.
But I said we have rights too. If you have the rights, we have the rights to complain that you are not allowed to just go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think, yes, they cannot smoke anywhere in public. Yes.
Just like smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes everywhere. Okay, Mr. Bob, tune in, people. Comedy 101.